Hey guys, I'm gonna see if anyone, excuse me, pops on here. We're running a little late. It's one of those evenings. Sometimes Sunday nights are a little crazy, but hopefully everyone will stay in bed and there won't be any issues. So tonight I am going to be talking about how I use oils to support my emotions more than anything. So I've talked about kind of like kiddos in the past, and now I'm going to kind of touch a little bit about or touch on using essential oils and just overall kind of like an overall holistic approach to dealing with emotions for women, moms. It's the Mother's Day edition, but grown up, I guess I'm a grown up women in particular. I'll touch a little bit on men too, but it's not my expertise, obviously. So, all right, I'm just going to kind of get started because it's a lot of information, and I'm already running late. So, all right, when we talk about emotions, they aren't separate from, other systems in our body. So, and what I mean by that is that emotions aren't like just this entity unto itself. They're very linked to the rest of our body systems. So your emotions really have an effect on every other organ in your body. I think that we often tend to focus on physical symptoms more than anything, and then respond to those, and then kind of tend to ignore or sort of like repress more like emotional symptoms, like how they're manifested. I know that like some people they don't allow themselves to actually feel the emotions, because let's be honest, sometimes it's uncomfortable to like feel all of these feelings and you don't want to deal with them, so you sort of just stuff them down. Sometimes it's hard as parents. We, to be frank, don't really have time to deal with our emotions because we're dealing with our kids' emotions and we're dealing with, the schedules of everyday lives, and, keeping the house in order and staying on the same team with your spouse and all of these things, that sometimes in terms of our individual feelings, sometimes we kind of just disregard them to a certain extent. And, as parents, we also have things that we've gone through as children or gone through in our adult life and are going through presently, different seasons of our lives dealing with different things, and life can be stressful. And like as a mom, I know I'm totally guilty of this. Sometimes you kind of just push down what you're feeling in the moment because the kids are around. You don't want to like let on that you're upset. I've certainly cried in front of my kids before, but not often because of all that kind of comes with that. You don't want them to feel like insecure. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like if you have legitimate emotions, it's absolutely fine to like show your children that you're a human being, not a robot. But, there's seasons in our lives that we're sad a lot of the time, or maybe we're going through something and we're angry. And that can't always be fresh on the surface because it would be difficult to function that way. Oh, thank you, Nicole. So sweet. I did my makeup today. Then I sort of dried my hair. See, I'm an emotional person. Thank you so much. You're so sweet. And I'll get back to my lesson now. Okay. So as a mom, see, I don't hear a lot of that from my kids, so it's very nice to be recognized by other mamas. I appreciate that. But as a mom, like I can't be sobbing in front of my kids or like screaming in front of my kids if I'm like mad at my husband or sad about something that a friend said or whatever the situation may be. I mean, I can, but I'm not going to get a lot done, and I'm not going to be probably a very effective parent. So we do that. Or we kind of go the other way, at least I do, where we like overreact. So maybe it starts out by like stuffing all that stuff down, and then, at some point, like a sponge, it gets saturated and yeah, it's gonna blow. So sometimes we do this overreaction thing. And then it typically is in response to something that's completely unrelated to what is actually the problem. But because we've been stuffing it down, it somehow eventually has to come to the surface. And then, a kid spilling their milk is like now probably the worst thing that has ever happened in your entire life. And we all know that's not the case. But sometimes we act as such. I'm speaking from personal experience. Sometimes I act as such. I don't know, can't speak for you, but something tells me that as a mom, you've been there before. So the problem is that when we react that way, we don't then really get to the root of the problem. We have this overreaction. Hopefully we say we're sorry or whatever. But usually that issue is still kind of like underlying. And so it never really gets addressed. So then that cycle sort of repeats itself and it's just never good. So when we don't resolve the issue or process it, or even sometimes when we do, right, there's still this like, this emotional like need to sort of process. And it often manifests itself in some very physical ways. So I don't know if you've experienced this before, but when I've gone through stressful times in my life, I'm seeing people commenting. Oh, sorry. Oh, yes, thank you. Okay. So when I've gone through I've gone through some I would consider traumatic things in my life. I won't dive into too much detail, but my oldest, my cat totally just like fell out of something in the closet. My oldest child is from a previous relationship, and her father struggled with some things for much of his life, and he did pass away at an early age, at the age of 33, and without going too much into it, it was a result of an addiction. And I spent a big majority of my 20s dealing with sort of that dysfunction. And there's some trauma involved in that. And I certainly would not take back my experience because I think that has kind of shaped me into the person that I am today. But it's still something that I experienced, and in many ways was very traumatic. And that at the time and, even since kind of has manifested itself in some physical ways. So like during those like kind of like exacerbated sort of stressful situations when things were very like up and down, particularly down, I had a lot of stomach issues. And I know a lot of people, like when you're nervous for something or you're stressed out, like it tends to kind of hit us in the stomach. We feel nauseous or it's just not right. People get headaches, obviously, when they're feeling tense. When I went through, our family kind of went through a bit of a trauma when I was 19, and I started having severe pain in my in my stomach. I hadn't pinpointed it at that point. A lot of throwing up. I had severe pain, and turns out my gallbladder was working at like 18%. And I wholeheartedly believe that the amount of stress leading up to that was a major contributor in these physical symptoms that I was having. And certainly I probably had some sort of predisposition to it. But given that, and then the amount of stress that my body was under and my mind was under, it was kind of like a perfect storm. And I think a lot of people sort of experience that, where you have these like emotional struggles, this emotional pain, and it often then kind of, it oozes out and it manifests itself in, physical ways and in many different senses. So, it's important to process these feelings. in the moment, if you can't right then, like, come back to it. And really, a lot of people kind of harbor anger. I know, having gone through what I went through, like, yeah, I was angry that this person made some bad choices. But anger, I feel like more than anything, really just sort of like it paralyzes you in many ways, and that sort of festers, and it becomes sort of this like internal, like, physical health issue as well as emotional. So, not to be preachy, but I think it's important to kind of let those things go, if anything for yourself, not necessarily even for them, but just so that you can sort of move through life and not be just angry all the time. So, so emotions can severely impact our health, physically as well as emotionally. So, in order to keep our emotional health in check, I like to look at it very holistically. So, again, like, all of our body systems being linked together. Like, if one is out of whack, the others aren't working as streamlined as they can, because they all sort of, they come together, and there's like this intricacy of our body systems working together. So, what can we do to support these emotions and to help with overall wellness? So, rest. I feel like this is probably like the number one thing, especially with parents. We don't get enough rest. Even when we do get a night's sleep, it's typically interrupted by a child having, I need to be wiped, or there was a nightmare, or the baby's up crying, your husband's snoring, whatever it is. Getting enough rest is super important. It sort of lays the foundation, I think, for the day. If you're tired, good luck, at least for me. Like, I don't enjoy waking up anyways, so when I've not had enough sleep, waking up is even more difficult. Also, in that whole idea of rest, I think it's super important. As parents, I feel like we maybe have had these like things that we have passions for, or they're like hobbies, things that we love to do, that sort of also kind of go by the wayside as parents because we maybe don't have time for them. So part of rest, I think, is sort of like nurturing that like creativity, different outlets. That's a great emotional outlet to have something that, isn't quantified. So it's not like, if you're an artist for your job, it's not the same as, sitting and doodling, if that's something that, really brings you joy. So it's important that we kind of niche, we kind of carve out like a little bit of a time to do stuff like that. I like refinishing furniture, stuff like that, where I can feel very productive, creative to a certain extent, and sort of just rest my brain, and do something I'm passionate about. So that's important. We need to eat. We need to eat healthy. We need to, drink water. I was a huge Diet Coke drinker forever. And that was something that I really had to think, like, here I am putting like all of these kind of chemicals in my body, and really I should just be drinking more water, which is better for me anyways. Limit alcohol. I'm not a big drinker. I certainly understand feeling like you maybe need some drinks, having children. But there's moderation, obviously. But, if we're consuming like copious amounts of alcohol every night, it's probably not a good idea. Caffeine too. I love coffee. One thing I realized, even with the Diet Coke, was at some point in the day, I need to cut off the caffeine. I was having like restless leg syndrome and just having trouble falling asleep. And I thought, here, I'm like this insomniac. Well, turns out drinking Diet Coke all day long probably doesn't help your sleep hygiene, as they call it. So, processed foods, again, we know like they taste delicious, but they're full of junk, and just not, the whole idea is like what you're putting into your body is what you're going to get out. So if you're going to put junk into your body, you're most likely going to get junk out. And again, there's moderation. Like, it's your birthday, have a cupcake, but every other day in between that, we tend to like find a reason to treat ourselves. And I totally do this. It's something I struggle with probably the most. But again, these are like very physical things that have an effect both on our physical health, but also our emotional health. So the next one is we have to move. Like, we have to, like, as moms, we like run around with our kids a lot, which is exercise. But for me, like, when I'm running or like jogging, walking, when I'm doing that for at least half an hour, several times a week, I am a different person. There is this piece about putting headphones on, putting the baby in the jogger, and just like hauling out of my neighborhood and just running and pounding the pavement. For me, it's like a silent time, aside from the music blaring in my ears, but that's fine. To like, I pray in that moment. Maybe, you meditate, maybe you just like zone out, but it's this time for me to kind of, again, it's like that rest, that like disconnecting from like the crazy schedule and all that stuff. So, less TV. It's nice out now, so it's a little bit easier. It's way harder in the winter, but it's so good for us, not just physically, but emotionally. Connecting with people. I'm part of some moms groups. I know for me, if I feel isolated, I tend to get depressed, and then it tends to like snowball. So it's like, you're depressed, you don't want to go out and meet new people, and because you're not meeting new people, then you're feeling more depressed. You kind of have to like put yourself out there. We moved to Janesville 2 years ago, and I didn't know anybody. And I was so blessed to find some really great moms groups that I was able to hook into kind of as a result of the church that we found, and it's really been wonderful. But I can imagine how isolating it can be if you don't have that, and if you're with kids all day and literally have like no adult discussion. My husband works 1,300 miles away and has been gone since January. He went to Texas in September and has been back twice since then. So if I didn't have my mommy friends, I would probably be a shut-in. I think that it would be much easier just to be sad and just not do anything. So I have to push myself out the door, and it's made such a difference. So still hoping hubby can be working a little bit closer to home, but still taking care of my emotional health either way is good. So, and then I talked about how I pray during running. It might look like something different to you, and that's absolutely fine. So for me, it's talking to Jesus. For you, it might just be zoning out, like going over in your brain, like, I don't know, allowing yourself grace, apologizing to yourself for maybe not like doing something right the day before, or just kind of getting your thoughts together. I think that's so important. And just sort of reflecting. And then finally, engaging your senses. So surround yourself with things that you find beautiful, whether it's nature, whether it's art, like an art museum. Again, this is sort of kind of goes along with the whole passion thing of like, if you have a passion for, I don't know, bird watching, go out there, and that's going to help you emotionally. And then emotionally, as you're nurturing your emotions, it's going to help you physically. And it's going to help all the people around you, because if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. And that is the truth. So, going along with engaging your senses. So like, if in your home, if it like truly brings you joy to have some fresh flowers on your table, by all means, go get some fresh flowers. Things during the day, you glance over at that, it seems like a little thing, but if it can bring you joy, like true joy, do it. Listening to great music. There's nothing like in the spring being able to put down the windows, blare some good classic rock, in my opinion. Sorry, I'm like a hippie child. And just jamming out to some Led Zeppelin. Like, to me, that is like therapeutic. It's cathartic. It's amazing. some people are huggers. They need like that physical like touch, while some people are like, get away from me. You know, whatever those kind of like sensory outlets that are helpful. Eating like good foods. Again, we talked about eating healthy foods, but you know, again, sometimes you indulge, and that's nice. It's, you know, it's feeding your senses. It's engaging your senses. So, you know, pets, like some people, like my sister has some companion animals that have been so helpful for her emotionally. My kid drives me nuts, but that's because I have 4 kids. I mean, I love her. Don't get me wrong, but I'm like, stop meowing. The kid's sleeping. But anyways, but whatever it looks like to you, engaging your senses is going to help you with your emotional health, which leads me to the sense of smell. So for me, smell has actually always been something that really like jogs memories for me. So I have a memory of being in my grandfather's basement. He was a woodworker. That was his passion. He did some carpentry professionally too, but he tinkered in his basement. And the smell of musty basement and like wood chips to me is probably like it's like heaven on earth. Because the thing is our olfactory system is so strong, and it's so linked to memory and then also to emotion, that for me, that jogs that memory. You know, some people might have like the smell of like an apple pie baking, like that's grandma. It's such a strong link to our emotions. So that's why, you know, I'll go into more detail, but that's why using essential oils can be so beneficial for our emotional health. So now, don't be confused, because some people think, oh, like smells, that's like, you know, I'll put on a candle. Okay, so you can put on a candle and it might smell good. However, most candles contain that synthetic fragrance that we talked about. So you're not really smelling anything beneficial. In fact, it's quite the opposite. Candles, wax warmers, air fresheners, Febreze used to be my jam, even incense. Not good. Why, you might ask? Well, synthetic fragrance versus like natural organic plant-based essence is very different. I have a lot of people saying like, oh, you know, I don't want to use essential oils because I'm very sensitive to fragrance, or I'm very sensitive to smells. And I think that their concept of what these smells are like synthetic perfumes, like or perfumes that contain synthetic fragrance, or heavily scented detergents or soaps, or you know, candles that are like highly fragranced. And that's not the same here. So we're dealing with, those are synthetic fragrances that are manufactured in like a lab or whatever, and then like put into this candle with other ingredients that aren't so good, that when they're burning are not good for our lungs either. Essential oils are different. They are like organic. They're like literally from the plant. They are the essence of the plant, hence essential oils. Not essential because they're like important, which I feel they are, but that's not. They're essential oils in that they are the essence of the plant. So while fragrance can be an allergen, a carcinogen, an endocrine disruptor, it can aggravate asthma. Essential oils are very different. In fact, not only are they not going to hurt you in those areas, they're actually going to benefit you. So, you know, in terms of your overall wellness, but like we're talking about today, our emotions. So, just kind of disclaimer, I'm only talking about Young Living oils because I'm a distributor of Young Living, and that's my job. So I don't know. I mean, I did a lot of research when I chose Young Living, but you know, I don't know like in depth quite as much, obviously, as I do about Young Living's products. So to me, I choose Young Living because I know about the purity of it, just because the transparency of the growing process. I won't talk too much about it because I talked about it before, but if you have questions about that, you can go to seedtoseal.com for more information. But, you know, to me, if I'm going to spend the money on these products and I'm going to really look for these therapeutic benefits, I want the purest product out there. And in my research, which I do thorough research, trust me, and I totally think you should do your own, by the way. Don't just take my word for it, because I probably wouldn't take someone else's word for it either. But in my research, Young Living was a no-brainer. So when we talk about oils, I'm not saying like this is, if you smell this oil, it will solve all your problems. It's not the only factor, right, when we're talking about physical and emotional health. The great thing about, for me, getting into oils and kind of this whole like wellness journey and getting rid of the non-toxic, or getting rid of the toxic stuff in our lives, I guess both figuratively and like literally, would be that I think the more things that you remove and then the cleaner things that you add, the more you even become aware of like the whole wellness goal. So as you take these baby steps, you make progress and you see the results, and then that kind of motivates you to keep going in this sort of wellness journey. And I see the oils as sort of like a piece to the puzzle. They're not the only factor at play, because I could use all the oils in the world and get 2 hours of sleep at night, and I'm going to be awful the next day. I could be putting horrible foods into my body and using oils, and they're not going to help me. I mean, they might help, but I'm not going to be achieving my wellness goals and being above that wellness line if all of the pieces aren't coming together. So, I definitely think that Young Living essential oils and the other products and everything can be very effective as a tool in seeking wellness. But as we say, they're not these magical unicorn tears. There is some effort involved in the overall wellness process. And I'm just going to be talking mostly about using them to support emotional wellness, because it does have such an effect on our physical wellness and everything else. So let's talk a little bit about the science behind how essential oils can impact our emotions and just like our body in general, the chemistry and sort of the biology behind that. So, okay, I'm going to read something from, it is the Essential Oil Desk Reference, and it's the 4th edition. So, when we inhale the fragrance of an essential oil, the odor molecules travel up the nose, and that's where they are registered by the nerves of the olfactory membranes in the nose lining. Okay, so you breathe them in, they go up. The odor molecules stimulate the lining of the nerve cells and trigger electrical impulses to the olfactory bulb in the brain. Okay, so here we are, we're breathing them in, right? You're smelling them, and it's sending messages to the brain. The olfactory bulb then transmits the impulses to the amygdala. That's a tough word. It's AMYGDALA, amygdala. I feel really like actually scientific when I say that, but anyways, where emotional memories are stored. So again, I smell musty basement and wood chips. My amygdala says grandpa. And to other parts of the limbic system in the brain. Okay, so because the limbic system is directly connected to those parts of the brain that control heart rate, blood pressure, breathing, memory, stress levels, hormone balance, all that, essential oils can actually have a profound physiological and psychological effect, because it's all linked. Olfactory response to odors kind of sounds bad. I would say sense, induce the brain to stimulate the release of hormones and neurochemicals that in turn alter the body's physiology and behavior. Okay, so the limbic lobe is a group of brain structures situated directly below the cerebral cortex of the brain, and that includes the hippocampus and the amygdala. Okay, it's like a little science lesson, guys. So it's capable of directly activating the hypothalamus, which is often referred to as the master gland, and it acts as the hormonal control center of our bodies. The hypothalamus releases hormones that can affect everything from energy levels to sex drive to emotions, everything in between. The production of growth hormones, those sex hormones, thyroid hormones, neurotransmitters such as serotonin, they're all governed. They're all like controlled by the hypothalamus. So really, like, again, I can't stress enough how every system, every function in our body is really linked to everything else. Because of their fragrance, again, this is not synthetic fragrance, this is organic, natural, essential oil fragrance. And their unique molecular structure, essential oils can actually directly stimulate the limbic lobe and the hypothalamus. So if you saw my, I think it was my last Essential Oils 101 video, I talked about how sesquiterpenes, which are a constituent of essential oils, and they're found in like varying degrees in different essential oils, how they can actually penetrate the blood-brain barrier. So the amygdala actually plays a major role. It houses, or I'm sorry, it stores kind of like emotional trauma. So a lot of like it basically plays a role in the releasing of emotional trauma. So the only way to stimulate the actual like amygdala like gland is with fragrance or the sense of smell. So again, I talked about how strong for me and a lot of people the sense of smell can be in terms of triggering memories and triggering different responses. It's the only smell is the only sense that can get to the amygdala and impact it. So our sense of smell links directly to our emotional states and behaviors that are often stored since childhood. Okay, like kids that have, a past with abuse. Maybe you were in a car accident. Things that happened years ago are going to impact us, and they're programmed into our brain. They are a part of us. And the nice thing about essential oils is that they can actually target that. So smell is only one of five physical senses that is directly linked to the limbic lobe of the brain. Is the only, I'm sorry, I'm reading my notes here. Is the only one, it's the only one. That's what I said. Whatever. Just move on. Okay, so feelings of anxiousness, depression, fear, anger, and joy, right, all originate from this region. A certain fragrance can evoke memories and emotions, even when we're like we're not even consciously aware of it. So even repressed memories. When smells are concerned, we react first and think later. All other physical senses are routed through the thalamus, which acts as a switchboard for the brain passing stimuli. Okay, so let's get back to these sesquiterpenes. We've heard of the blood-brain barrier. So that's the membrane between the circulating blood and the brain. So the blood that's circulating around and the actual brain. And the reason we have that is that it prevents damaging substances from reaching our brain tissue. Okay, so toxins, we don't want them reaching our brain. So this blood-brain barrier is what protects us. Okay, that's the bad stuff. Well, how can we target it to reach it with the good stuff? So it's, for therapeutic purposes, for healing purposes. The medical field for a really long time tried to figure out a way to do this. In 1994, it was documented in medical communities in Germany and in Austria that oils that are high in sesquiterpenes, specifically frankincense and sandalwood, can go beyond the blood-brain barrier. Not only can they penetrate through, they can actually help increase oxygen to the limbic system of the brain. And then that can lead to secretions of antibodies, which are really great for fighting off all that junk that is in our bodies. Endorphins, which we know kind of give us that jolt of energy, kind of that like an upbeat sort of mood, and then also neurotransmitters. So sesquiterpenes are kind of amazing. They can actually delete bad information in cellular memory that are present in almost all, and they're present in almost all essential oils. So basically this means that sesquiterpenes can kind of they can go in, they can reprogram the cells with misinformation, like for instance cancer cells, because cancer cells are essentially, you know, these free radicals and any other cells that contain this sort of garbled information. It's like it's a cell that's not functioning properly, and that's where we have these issues in our bodies. And the sesquiterpenes can actually go in and they can reprogram the bad to make it good, which helps with lots of things. You know, I talked about like the cancer cells, but also trauma, bad memories, things like that. So that is what sesquiterpenes can do. And while I can't talk about diagnoses and actually talk about curing things, what I can tell you is that essential oils contain sesquiterpenes, and sesquiterpenes are capable of doing some pretty amazing things. So if you want to know more specifically, you can Google properties of sesquiterpenes. It's a long word. I'll spell it for you. SESQUITERPENES. And you can Google that and their benefits. And you can learn a whole bunch of other stuff that maybe I can't tell you. So we know that frankincense and sandalwood are high in sesquiterpenes. Okay. Which other ones? Okay. So this is when I am going to show you all my oils. So I am going to, first I'm going to talk about the ones that are high in sesquiterpenes that are in the kit, because I think it really speaks to, like how great the kit is actually, and the value of it, because of really the emotional support. And actually some of these that provide emotional support can actually provide support in other areas too. So that's kind of cool because, you know, it's just showing you that there's not just like one use for these. So frankincense is in the kit. So that's one of the ones that's the highest in sesquiterpenes. I talked about frankincense earlier this week, and it is very grounding and calming. It's really great for your wellness overall, but we're going to focus on the emotional benefits. So again, those sesquiterpenes are able to go places in our limbic system that nothing else can. And that's great for trauma and other emotional issues and stuff like that. So next, sandalwood is not in the kits. That was actually part of the Mother's Day sale. So was Frank. But the next one I'm going to talk about is copaiba, which is also high in sesquiterpenes. It contains vanilla too, which is also very calming. I'm sorry, it does not. I apologize. Stress Away is what I was trying to say, has both copaiba and vanilla. So forget what I just said. Copaiba has a lot of other uses too, but really good for emotional support, and it's really good for sleep support. So when we're talking about emotional support, sleep, like I said before, paramount, so super helpful for that. Stress Away, which I briefly mentioned before, is a really good one for emotional support. I use this in my car diffuser. It smells very mild, which is why at first I was like, oh, I don't know, it's like all right. I mean, it smells good. But it sort of like just lays the foundation for a very chill time in the car. And I like to diffuse it with lime in the kitchen when it's like right when we get home from school, because that can be a difficult time, or like when I'm making dinner because it's like the witching hour. And I find that it's very calming. Real quick, we talked about smelling the oils in the olfactory system, and how profound that can be. You can also apply them topically, which I have a mood roller, I have my PMS roller, I have a tranquil roller. This one is actually like Young Living makes a tranquil roller, whereas these I mix myself. And then one I'll talk about in a little bit, Endoflex. So you can use those topically and it still gets into your system, but a lot of what we talked about like before with the limbic system and the olfactory system being linked, that's sort of where the science is there. And of course, if you're applying topically, you're going to be getting the scent as well. So either way, but so Stress Away is a really good one. This is the flex oil in the kit. So you get these 10 oils and then you get a small Stress Away with it as your flex oil. And that's a really nice one for just calming. And some people use it for sleep too. Cedarwood is one that is very high in sesquiterpenes. And this is actually one of the cheaper oils, which is great. This I put on my diffuser bracelet. We have this in our nighttime blend, both topically and in the diffuser. And actually, this is a great one. Well, I'm talking about emotions, but I'll talk a little bit about sort of like behavior in terms of like focus and attending to, because that's all sort of linked with emotions as well. But cedarwood is very good for kind of focus as well. But it is a very calming oil. And again, high in sesquiterpenes, really calms down. So basically what happens is if you're dealing with sort of a fight or flight situation, your brain, your amygdala can't function. Your brain can't process rationally. It can't reason when it's in this fight or flight response. So the oils, especially ones high in sesquiterpenes, can calm down that process. You're out of the fight or flight, you're back into rational thought, and then you can kind of deal with the issue at hand, or at least not be like crazy out of control in dealing with it. Kind of brings you back down. So oils like cedarwood can be very helpful for that, kind of bringing back down and then dealing with the issue at hand because you're not like all amped up and crazy. German chamomile is another good one that's very high in sesquiterpenes. Ginger, goldenrod, melissa. Melissa is really great for emotional support, mood support. Melissa is lemon balm, if you've heard of that. Myrrh, so frankincense, myrrh, biblical times. These have been around for like a really long time. I think people think like, oh, it's this like new fad, it's gonna die down. Well, it's not, because it's not a fad, and they've been around since like Egyptian times, like way before Jesus walked the earth and all that good stuff. So helichrysum is also one that is high in sesquiterpenes, and that's actually in Panaway, which is in the kit. Patchouli is one, which I have. Patchouli. I use this in my deodorant. Actually, so one of the things that I kind of didn't touch on is the products that we have in our home. So I've talked a little bit about, well, a lot about ditching and switching. And while you might say, well, how is that related to my emotions? Well, if you're constantly putting these toxins on your body and your skin is absorbing them and they're getting into your bloodstream, that is going to have an effect on both your physical and your emotional health. It's all chemicals in your body. We want natural, like God-made chemicals in our body. We don't want synthetic crap. Sorry, but it's true. So things like deodorant that have aluminum in them, and that's the antiperspirant. That's what makes you not sweat. We're absorbing that. It's actually like clogging our like skin and not letting our pores like get out what they need to get out, the toxins. And so switching to, I use milk of magnesia and patchouli and then Endoflex, because that's good for endocrine support. And that is my deodorant. Even like facial cleansers, shampoos, conditioners, all of those things that have these synthetic chemicals in them, you're using them, you're inhaling them while you're using them, and also they're getting absorbed into your body, and that's going to cause some issues. There, endocrine disruptors and reproductive issues, and again, the allergens, and it exacerbates asthma, stuff like that, where it's all those physical things are going to affect your emotions as well. So that's where, me making my own face cream and stuff like that comes into play. And even when you're talking about your emotions, it seems maybe unrelated, but it actually is. So patchouli, that led me off onto the deodorant path, but whatever. Okay, so clove is also high in sesquiterpenes, and that is actually in thieves. It's the main ingredient in thieves, which is like an immune powerhouse of an oil, and also the basis of all of our like cleaning stuff. Again, cleaning stuff in your house, it has an effect on both your emotional and physical health because it's all intermingled. And it doesn't seem like spraying Windex on a wall or on a window is going to like really affect you. But if you're being exposed to chemicals for cleaning and in your cosmetics and in your shampoo and, this and that and your food, it's going to become, part of your DNA, this toxic material. So again, moderation, I get it, step by step, but it all factors in. So clove is in thieves, also in Panaway, and ylang-ylang, which it's not in any of these, but I don't have ylang-ylang per se by itself, but I have release, which I absolutely love. This is like an emotional support oil. Release, it's like getting rid of that junk that is weighing you down emotionally that maybe you haven't processed, and this can kind of support you in kind of just letting some of that go. So this is one of my favorites, release. It's a really good one. Okay, so there are other calming oils that aren't, most oils contain these sesquiterpenes, but even ones that aren't particularly high in it can also be calming and support us emotionally. So I'll talk about lavender. Lavender is very calming. It's probably, if you've not even heard of oil, something that you've heard of, like using lavender as a calming agent. Now, there's synthetic lavender that we add to that people, have used in Johnson's & Johnson's products for years. And then there's true, pure lavender essential oil. And again, I think some people might say, oh, lavender, it makes me sneeze. If you've had issues with, perfumes, heavy fragrances in the past, I would challenge you to try some essential oils and see the difference. It's not the same. It's not the same as the reaction you're going to feel walking down like the laundry aisle at the store, because that's synthetic fragrance. Again, this isn't just not bad for you. It's actually good for you. It's going to benefit you. So also, citrus smells are very uplifting, which not to the point of you're revved up and out of control, manic. Uplifting yet calming. So Citrus Fresh, which is now in the kit, is a blend of tangerine, orange, grapefruit, lemon, mandarin, and it has a little bit of spearmint. And this is a really nice, uplifting, motivating, but again, at the same time, calming, that I really like to mix with lavender. So you kind of have this floral scent with lavender and then a clean citrus scent together. And sometimes I like to mix frankincense, which is frankincense is a resin, so it's more earthy, woodsy. And it's nice when you kind of have those notes together. And they can all be very supportive in their own ways. So Citrus Fresh is nice. Lemon, which is also in the kit. I love it in my water, which is very cleansing. So again, cleansing all of those toxins out of your body, which is going to help us physically, but also emotionally, because it's all linked. Bergamot is also a good one. So that one is here. These vitality oils, I can safely say that you can ingest these too. I've talked about this before. I'll touch on it really quick. The white label basically means that it is marketable based on what the FDA says as ingestible. However, if you bought a big bottle of bergamot that just looked normal, actually here, I'll do this with ones I actually have 2 of though. I maybe got rid of all my double ones. Okay, we'll just do it like this. Okay, so Stress Away, because it has like the just solid colored label, this is labeled for aromatic use and topical use. Because this has the white label, this is labeled for internal use. So basically the FDA says we can't market an oil for all 3 together, for, you know, aromatic, internal, and topical use. So it's a packaging thing. It's a marketing thing. The oil itself, so like if you had a small Citrus Fresh and it was a Citrus Fresh Vitality, it would be the same oil inside. It's just a packaging and marketing thing. So don't be confused. Okay. So I'll go back. So like bergamot is, if there is a Vitality version of it, then it is ingestible. It gets a little confusing, but the FDA just really likes it that way, I think. So one that is super grounding for me and calming is vetiver. Do I have it here? Yes. Okay. So vetiver. Some people don't like the smell of it, but so, okay, the thing with vetiver is that it's very, very like thick, and it actually doesn't drip out of the bottle very easily. So forgive me, they suggest that you put it in your bra. Now, if you're a boy and you don't have a bra, I'm sorry, you can maybe rub it in your hands. But one day I had done that because I wanted to use it for a bedtime blend, and I forgot it was there. And so I think it was like early in the day I was making the bedtime blend. And like throughout the day I was like, man, am I calm? Like, what is going on here? And then I realized that I still had the bottle of oil like in my bra, and that was vetiver, and it's super helpful. So it's very calming, grounding. It's great. I'm going to take it out now. It's great mixed with, we'll do this. Vetiver, lavender, and cedarwood. Those are my go-to focus blend for Maddie, and also really good for sleep. Again, you kind of have like a woodsy, an earthy, and a floral together, and they're very good for emotional support, as well as like the focus and attending and all that stuff. Again, I can't use diagnoses, but think of like 3 or 4 letters put together. Maddie may have an issue with this, so helpful for that. Okay, valerian, which is, some people say like smells like poo, but apparently it's just as grounding, if not more, than vetiver. I heard something today that someone said if something doesn't smell good to you, it might be exactly what you need. Like, for some reason, it might be off-putting initially, but it might also be your body's way of saying, oh, I need that. That would be beneficial to me. I don't know if there's like scientific proof behind that, but that's what I heard. So geranium also is a good one for calming, amongst other things. It's good for hormonal support as well. And that is in some of these blends that I'm going to talk about now. So those were all like sort of just single oils. And then, you know, you can always make a blend yourself with single oils, or Young Living makes them too. Some that are very famous, like you may have heard of Peace and Calming, which is actually one of my favorites. I have this on my diffuser bracelet. Take a little sniff. It's very calming. This has ylang ylang, orange, tangerine, patchouli, and blue tansy. So it has several of those high sesquiterpene oils. Has some citrus oils in there. The floral scents, all ones that are kind of together, all working for this very like calming, hence peace and calming, blend. And, you know, I have it on my bracelet, or you can literally just smell like that. And like, it's like almost like an instant effect. So that one. I have grounding, which I've talked a lot about for my kiddos. I really like this one too. So grounding has white fir. I love the smell of fir. Black spruce, lang lang, pine, cedarwood, angelica, and juniper. This is a really good one. And also white angelica has geranium, like I just talked about, lang lang, melissa, rose, bergamot, melissa, I already said melissa, myrrh, northern lights, black spruce, hyssop, I think is what you say, sacred sandalwood. So again, a nice blend. So the nice thing about blends is you kind of you don't have to buy like the 8 oils that are with that, and they're all kind of peace and calming or grounding or white angelica. They're all kind of like put together because of these properties that can be therapeutic and helpful. So that's nice when you're starting out and you don't have like all of the individual oils. Okay, so I talked about how for focus, you can use lavender, cedarwood, and vetiver. You can also use peppermint for kind of alertness, and that's in the kit here, peppermint, and lavender, lemon, frankincense, citrus fresh, all ones that are going to kind of like be sort of motivating and help with alertness, but at the same time, they're still calming. They're not like going to make you jittery with like alertness, like when you're consuming caffeine or like energy drinks or anything like that. So also, there's the whole link of like, if you're calm, you're going to more easily be able to focus. So, I think sometimes there's multiple issues at hand, right? So a kid that has trouble focusing, it might be because they feel anxious. So if you target that feeling of anxiousness and address that, the other things might fall into place, or that's improved. So now we can use this to help with the focus, and then everything falls into place. So if that makes sense, they're all sort of pieces of the puzzle. There is a KidSense blend called Genius, and it comes pre-diluted. It's a pricey one, but because it has all of these pricier oils in it, and again, instead of having to get all of the ingredients in it, you can buy the blend already and have all of those calming properties. And it contains cedarwood, sacred frankincense, which is like super. There's all these like criteria for how you can harvest it, and like how often it can be harvested, and there's like only like one place in the world where this like particular plant grows, and that's why that one's a pricey one. Idaho blue spruce, northern lights black spruce, melissa vetiver, bergamot, and a whole slew of others. So that's one that I kind of want to try to, just because it has all those ones in there that I don't have yet. So it's pre-blended, and because it's the KidSense line, it's pre-diluted, so you don't have to worry about dilution ratios and all that stuff. So, okay, the next thing I'm going to talk about is the connections between emotions and hormones. So there's these emotional kind of issues that we talked about, and then there's hormones that affect our emotions, or do they? So, okay, so many people actually think that our hormones control our emotions, but actually it's the other way around. So emotions actually control our hormones, interesting, through biochemical changes in the brain. So it's a little contrary to what you might think. But so fear, for instance, is accompanied by the production of one set of brain chemicals that can make us alert and ready to flee, that like fight or flight again. While pleasure triggers the release of other chemicals that are soothing and calming. Okay, so it's kind of opposite of what you might think. So, all right, so there's like this scenario. So there's a stressed out mother baboon, right? And I'm sorry. There was a study. Okay, so stressed out mother baboons have more problems producing healthy offspring because the sustained production of stress hormones can also damage the hippocampus, which we talked about earlier. So, and those are central to learning and to memory. Okay, so you have stress, and then it's affecting everything else, right? And then in terms of learning and memory and our ability to function, that's also impacted. So even though I have this written down and now it's not making any sense, and I'm just gonna like skip past it because I sound like an idiot talking about it. Whatever. Okay, live and learn. Sesquiterpenes can produce profound effects on emotions, as we've talked about. However, hormonal balance can also be sesquiterpenes can also affect hormonal balance. Okay, so they can actually stimulate glands. Okay, so what kind of oils are hormone supportive oils? So Endoflex, which I discussed earlier. Well, I brought it up earlier. Endoflex is an endocrine support oil, and it is one that supports liver function and thyroid function. They say that in your liver is where you carry anger. So this actually can really help. Like if a kid is having a tantrum or a mom is having a tantrum because of anger, like sometimes we are upset for like, or we feel sadness and it manifests itself as anger, or a tantrum, whatever. My cat's just hanging out back there. But if the anger is what's causing the issue, oftentimes slathering this on your liver is a really great way to kind of release those toxins and get everything working efficiently. Also, your thyroid plays into energy and just like overall body function. So Endoflex is a really good one to support that. I like to put it in a roller bottle because it's easier to slather it on your liver. This is easy to do a drop on your thyroid, but if you're wanting to like slather it on your liver, this is the way to go. And that has been helpful with some of my kiddos, but we're talking about momming today. So though, if your kids are crazy, it affects us clearly. So Progestins Plus is one that I have talked a lot about. And this is a natural progesterone supplement that is yam derived. It is specifically formulated for women over 30 for hormonal support. And I'm sort of limited as to what I can say, but certain women have too much of certain hormones or not enough of others. And I would suggest Googling low progesterone estrogen dominance. And oftentimes they suggest a progesterone supplement. And this is a natural progesterone supplement. So it's not, again, synthetically or chemically derived. Or chemicals are tricky because there's obviously like chemicals in everything, but natural chemicals, not synthetic chemicals. So this is naturally derived. And this has been very helpful for me. This has also helped many women in my oily team who struggled to have babies because of hormones being out of whack. It has helped them do so, and that is all I will say about that. Again, Google it. There's a lot of information. Dr. Jim Bob does like a whole thing on this. It's really good. He's a doctor, so he can say more things than me because I'm not a doctor. But I am a mom. That is true. For a decade now. Over a decade. All right. Dragantine is one that I've raved about. This, again, this is girly, but it has helped my cycle get to the point where I can leave the house. I was pretty much homebound for like a good 24 hours every month, and now I am not. So if you want to know more about that, message me and I will talk to you about it. But this is great for, I love the way they, like, Young Living describes it, because again, the FDA says like we can't say certain things. So they say it can help promote feelings of stability and calm during cycles of moodiness. So during your cycle of moodiness, during your dragon time, I highly suggest this. And I use this leading up to my dragon time, during my dragon time, and it's been super helpful. So This is another one that I put in a roller bottle because I can apply it to my lower abdomen. When you're doing it over a larger surface area, it's better to dilute it. You're going to maybe want to dilute it anyways, but if you put it in a roller bottle, it's easier to apply. So leading up to my cycle, I put it on my lower abdomen, and then during my cycle, lower abdomen and lower back because I get discomfort in my lower back. Good times. But it's been super helpful. So message me if you have more questions about dragon time. Because there be dragons, ladies, let's be honest. And yeah. All right. Sclerescence similarly is formulated for women, good for cycle and hormone support. And it's a vitality oil, so you can take it internally. There is one called Shutron, I think is how you say it. And that's kind of the men's version of Progestins Plus, and deals more with testosterone. And again, it's an empowering essential oil blend specifically formulated for men to boost feelings of masculinity and confidence. Shutron is perfect for use as a cologne that appeals to both men and women. So, again, FDA, we can't say certain things, but, you know, you can connect the dots. All right, so what we say is small, frequent, consistent doses are what is going to lead to success using oils to support your emotions. And consistency is huge. You cannot use it for one day and expect that it's going to work for a lifetime. You know, this isn't like a high dose of like medicine from your doctor. These are, you know, essential oils that can be super powerful, don't get me wrong, but the best way to use them is in small doses, frequently throughout the day, and again, consistently. So before I go, I'm going to talk real quick about gut health and how that relates to our emotions. So digestive and gut health, actually 90% of serotonin is developed in the gut, which is something that I learned in this whole research process, which is kind of shocking. So serotonin carries signals along and between our nerves. It's a neurotransmitter, mainly found in the brain, bowels, and blood platelets. Serotonin is thought to be especially active in constricting smooth muscles, transmitting impulses between nerve cells, regulating cyclic blood or body processes, and contributing to just well-being and overall happiness. So serotonin, you've probably heard on those like ads for different prescriptions or whatever, where they're like, oh, this produces serotonin and blah, 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 and all that. Like there's like cartoons where the cells are like moving about and then they smile because, you know, whatever. Serotonin is regarded by some researchers as a chemical that is responsible for maintaining mood balance, and then a deficit of it leads to depression. So again, those ads where the cell is sad and then they get the medicine and now they're happy and whatever. I don't know. I won't say anything about that. So it's important to take care of our gut if we know that 90% of that serotonin is developed in the gut. Okay, so our digestive system is important, right? Taking care of your digestive system by, you know, putting healthy foods into it helps actually nourish your emotional health. So what are some important things we can eat or take in terms of supplements to nourish that? You know, we talk about eating organic foods. Why is that? Well, it's because, you know, fruits and vegetables that are grown conventionally contain lots of pesticides that are still present on the food, in the food. You know, we can wash off produce, but some of it gets inside, and that can disrupt, you know, everything in our body, but certainly our gut health. Same with like the growth hormones and genetically modified stuff that is in food that's grown conventionally, not organically, and that can kind of disrupt that intricate balance that we talked about with everything being linked. Eating whole foods not processed foods, lean meats, fruits and vegetables, all of those things. Healthy fat, super important. Drinking lots of water. That's all going to factor into your gut health. Prebiotics and probiotics, super important. Fermented foods, not a big fan of like sauerkraut and stuff. Kombucha is fermented. You may have heard of that. That's supposed to be awesome for your gut health. I'm not a big fan of the store-bought kind, but my friend Courtney made me some like homemade kombucha, and it's really good. My husband didn't like it, but I actually got the kids to drink it. So I take probiotics, and actually this month I'm switching to the Young Living probiotics. So I'm excited to try that. It's called Life9. And that's kind of what I'm doing. I'm starting this whole so last month I got shampoo and conditioner through Young Living because I did the math and found out that it's cheaper when I dilute it the way that Leslie Burris told us how to do it than the Honest Company shampoo and conditioner that I was buying before. And these probiotics are comparable, plus I'm getting rewards points because I'm putting them in my rewards order. So it's this transfer buying because you can't do it all at once. If I had unlimited funds, I would. I don't. So, instead of going to Walgreens to buy my Florigen probiotics this month, I'm going to buy them through Young Living. And I'll let you know how they are. Oils in the kit that are really great for digestion. See what I did there? Peppermint and Digest together. These two are so good for tummy troubles. Peppermint, again, it aids in digestion. Digest contains tarragon, ginger, peppermint, juniper, fennel, lemongrass, anise, and patchouli, and those are all ones that are going to help just with aid in digestion and help just with overall gut health. And again, the probiotics and stuff that helps with gut flora, and it's all the good bacteria that's going to kind of help the whole warding off all the yucky stuff. That's the technical term. Warding off the yucky stuff. And finally, Ningxia Red, which I just ordered with my rewards points, is a supplement that at first I was like, doesn't every company have to have some sort of drink supplement? Well, it's delicious. And it gives you good energy that isn't jilty caffeine, and it's delicious. So good. And if you live near me, you can come over and I will make you a Ningxia Red spritzer with seltzer water that will knock your socks off. And it's supposed to be awesome for eye health. It has all these antioxidants. I like to just pretend like I'm sipping some sort of tropical drink on a beach while I cook dinner with it. And I'm not on a beach, but whatever. Ningxia Red is amazing. Okay. So basically, I'm summing up now. I'm always going to tell you that the kit is the way to start off using oils. As you can see, I think that I mentioned all of these this evening except for Thieves, though I did. Oh, except for Raven. That was the only one I didn't mention. And that's for respiratory support, which I've talked about. It helps me run. So there you go. See, it helps you exercise, which is good for your emotional support. So literally every oil, these are 10 plus the Stress Away 11 oils, are in some way going to contribute to supporting your emotional health. Specifically, we talked about citrus fresh, lemon, lavender, peppermint, Stress Away, Digest, frankincense, and copaiba being high in either sesquiterpenes or other kind of mood support or emotional support constituents. Thieves, we talked about having clove in it, which is high in sesquiterpenes, but also that's great for immune support. And again, everything is linked. If your immunity is out of whack, everything's out of whack. Panaway we talked about the helichrysum and the clove, but also great for joint and muscle support. And then, like I said, Raven. So that's your 10 oils. I talked about the flex oil of Stress Away. So really, this is your best bet to get started. 160, plus you get that diffuser back there. Plus you get 2 samples of the Ningxia Red that I just talked about. and a sample of the Thieves Household Cleaner. Getting those toxins out of your home are going to help you support your overall wellness. Okay, you don't have the junk coming in, plus you're getting good stuff coming in, like not just the lack of junk, but also good stuff that is helping to support all of your various systems, your emotions, your immunity, your digestive health, your hormones, your like endocrine system, everything. So you get the diffuser, and you get a community that is super focused on education and using your oil safely and effectively. That is the major difference between going to a grocery store, buying your oils online through Amazon, and joining a community and buying from Young Living, is that you're going to have the support to do it. I talked about, 20 oils tonight. There are like 300 oils out there. So that can be overwhelming. If you have me, and now we're up to like 4,000 people in the Oil Collective community to help you, with specific issues, to just help you get started, to give you suggestions, to give you the education you need to be consistent in using these oils to support your emotions and other areas, that's going to set you up for success. So if your goal is wellness, you want to surround yourself with people, resources that are going to, help you reach that goal. So the kit is the best way to do that. So it's $160. The value, I think, is right around $340. So basically it's like 50% off in terms of the cost of like these oils individually, plus the stress away, plus the diffuser, plus what the membership would cost, plus the samples. It's basically, you're getting double the product for what you're paying. And I am offering you $25 back right now for the next person that purchases a kit. And after that, I don't know what I'm going to offer. But, I got the kit for it was like my birthday, Christmas, anniversary gift because I really wanted it. And I was like, you know what? If it has to be my 3 combo gift, that's fine. So I'm thinking that like Mother's Day, this would be awesome because it's going to help your mommy emotions. And at this point, it might be a little late to get it on Mother's Day. However, if maybe we could do expedited shipping, I can maybe help you out with that. I guess it would depend on where you live, but talk to me and we'll figure it out. I would love to get the kit to you by Mother's Day. This week, one of our leaders is actually going to talk about, she has kind of gotten this idea that, while it's absolutely a great value, don't get me wrong, sometimes $160 is a lot, even $135 or $145 or whatever, if there's a discount. So what if there was like this mini starter kit where you could get samples of all of the oils in addition to some literature, some teaching to help you through it? Maybe that might be something that is more doable for you initially before you feel like, I think people feel like they're like signing their lives away. It's not like that. It's not a cult. There's no like monthly fees. So, but I can understand how that it feels like a big commitment and a big investment. So maybe, $10 for a mini starter kit might be more doable. So that actually, I'm going to have some information coming out on that this week. But if you're thinking like, oh man, I didn't tell my husband or my kids what I want for Mother's Day, and these oils sound interesting, and Katie really knows a little bit of what she's talking about because she's done a lot of research, well, then message me and we'll talk. But I will probably see you throughout the week live, but I do want to wish you all a happy Mother's Day because guess what? We are doing one of the hardest jobs in the world, but also one of the most important. And nothing against the dads. You're doing a great job too, but this is Mother's Day, so we'll talk about dads a little bit closer to summer. But keep on fighting the good fight, ladies. And you know what? If you screwed up today, there's always tomorrow. There's always I'm sorry. And it's a hard job. It really is. So I see you. I see you, ladies. I see you, moms. You're doing great. You are. So if you have any questions about oils in general, oils and emotions, any of that stuff, let me know. I hope you guys learned a little bit. I think that's about it. So, all right, have a great night, and hopefully I will see you guys all live throughout the week, talking a little bit more about the starter kit and this mini starter kit coming out. So have a great night, guys. Bye-bye.